We've just had some huge news regarding the Roswell UFO incident that took place in 1947. Almost 60 or 70 years later, we've got an official update as the man, that took the images of the UFO incident in Roswell many moons ago has come forward, allegedly. So, the Roswell Incident, let's take a look at this first. So the Roswell Incident is a conspiracy theory that alleges that in 1947, a crash of the United States Air Force's balloon near Roswell, New Mexico, was actually caused by an extraterrestrial spacecraft operated from the nearby Alamogordo Army Airfield as part of a top-secret Project Mogul. The balloon was intended to detect Soviet nuclear tests after metallic and rubber debris were found and recovered by the Roswell Army Airfield personnel. The United States Army announced that there's a possibility of a flying disc. This announcement made international headlines but was retracted within a day, obscuring the true purpose of the source of the crashed balloon. The Army subsequently stated that it was a conventional weather balloon in classic US Army status. But over 70 years later, a man called Frederick Benthel is the man who claims to be the Roswell photographer. And what I mean by that is the man that actually allegedly captured the UFO incident on camera, right? He took the snapshots for the papers. All the ones that are now infamous were apparently from this man right here. So, a military photographer who allegedly took the photos of alien bodies found near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947 has left little known video confession about his involvement in the incident. Never widely released, the photographer's filmed testimony has been open to the public since August of this year, along with other information. In the recording, as well as the other interviews that are notarized statement left for the posterity, the photographer, Sergeant Frederick Benthel, recounts his involvement in the historic Roswell accident. According to his testimony, in July 1947, shortly after the accident, he received urgent orders to fly immediately to Roswell Air Force Base, and a 3-hour flight from where he was stationed, he travelled in a B-25 bomber accompanied by Corporal A.I. Kirkpatrick. So, upon landing, he was taken on an hour-and-a-half drive to north of Roswell, where he observed covered trucks, carrying some kind of unusual debris. Further along, he was taken to a spot in the desert where the tents had been set up, and he observed the photographers at the scene. He was ordered to enter one of the tents and begin taking photographs. There, he saw 4 small humanoid bodies, almost all identical. They had large heads, dark skin, and very thin bodies. They were on the ground, wrapped in rubber tarpaulin material, so he detected a strange smell inside the tent. The photo was reportedly closely supervised by an officer who did not want the photographer to observe the beings for too long. His photographs and equipment were confiscated, and he was instructed not to speak about the event as it was a matter of national security. He was taken back to his base in Washington, D.C. Soon after, he abruptly transferred from his location to be reassigned to the Antarctica to document the effect of cold on equipment. This testimony is astonishing, and now the new review of the previous research on the Roswell incident provides stunning confirmation that Benthel's story may indeed be true. So this is Frederick Benthel right here. Frederick Benthel was a 26-year-old Army Air Force sergeant and photographer specialist stationed at the Naval Station Anacostia in Washington, D.C. During the summer of 1947, the Naval Station served several purposes, including being the major flight test center, an experimental aircraft facility, and a research center. Over the years, the unit of the Army Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and National Guard, as well as the Department of Defense (DoD) and federal agencies, found the Anacostia installation the ideal location for their operations. Prior to the assignment, Benthel had received high-level security clearance, and in 1946 was responsible for setting up the photographic equipment for the Operation Crossroads nuclear bomb detonations at Bikini Atoll in the Pacific. Part of Benthal's testimony was included in the 1992 book Crash at Corona, the US military retrieval and cover-up of a UFO, written by Don Berliner and the late physicist, ufologist and author Stanton Friedman. Referred to only as FB in the book, Friedman later revealed that the researcher Don Schmidt, that FB referred to the name Frederick Benthal. Friedman was widely known for travelling the country giving lectures on UFOs and Roswell. It is believed that Benthal, or someone that knew him, attended one of these lectures, making the meeting between the two possible. Very interesting. So the story of the tape. And then Frederick Benthal. I mean, I'm sure you're all very interested in the interview, so let's get straight into that because, I mean, there's a lot of information here, but let's just dive into the juicy stuff because that's exactly what we're here for today, isn't it? So, this is Frederick Benthal talking about his encounter and his photography at the Roswell UFO Crash incident.
There was a hell of a lot of people down there, military, with trash trucks going around picking up, I guess, parts that were scattered on the ground.
Benthal says he and two other photographers, chosen from different military units, had been flown to Roswell Army Airfield.
And there was several of us doing photography work, I imagine. I saw 2 or 3 of them, but I don't know where they come from. I don't know what happened to them.
From the airbase, they'd been driven out to the desert in a covered truck. When Buck Sergeant Benthal climbed off the truck, he found himself in the midst of a large military operation with special equipment, more than 50 soldiers, plus several majors and colonels.
They had tents set up there and trucks with air-conditioned units, I guess, is what it was. And there's cars coming in and out all the time, trucks, military.
He did not see a crashed ship. Apparently Benthal had been brought to the debris field. But in a rubberized tent nearby, a mystery was waiting in the shadows.
In a tent there, they had some, they said, bodies in there.
Benthal says he could not see the bodies clearly, but there was something else.
Well, they had a funny smell in there, but I since I run around with a guy who run an undertaker there at Carroll, Illinois. It smelled like embalming fluid or something like that. And the bodies was laying there on the ground. They're laying on a rubber sheet.
He said guards confiscated both film and camera as soon as he exited the tent where the bodies were laid out. And yet, Fred Benthal came up with the first independent eyewitness description of the recovery operation at the debris field. Large trucks, 5-ton trucks, fully loaded with wreckage.
I saw a lot of scrap stuff on the back of trucks. Metal parts and things like that. It looked like metal strippings and things like that, but I couldn't tell you what they were. They sort of didn't want you to get close to this, that, to the other, and I guess they was as confused as we were. And I know I was confused, but if they say squat, I squatted, and that was it.
Benthal claims his military records later were falsified to include fake assignments and a rank he never held. But nothing, not a clue remained that he had ever been to Roswell, New Mexico.
There you go. So it's very interesting because this is kind of the first man that's ever really kind of come forward since that Roswell incident. Obviously, we've had multiple people come forward and say, like all the rest of it. But, I mean, I will admit, there is no way that we can actually prove that Frederick Benthal was actually there. But, the question is, why would he lie? What purpose has he got to say that he wasn't there? So let's have a little look further through the further through the article here, so more corroborating points. So it says, Bethel said that before he was arrived at Roswell, that he might see some important military personnel at the site where he was being taken. This included General Curtis LeMay, the future head of the Strategic Air Command and Chief of Staff in the US Air Force, although LeMay himself does not appear to have arrived at Roswell after the crash. He did send Director of Research and Development General Lawrence Craigie, I'm butchering that, sorry, to the site. Interestingly, it was Craigie, who later authorized the creation of the government's official study of UFOs, Project Sign, later known as Project Blue Book. So that was an interesting point that I felt was important to include. But what do you guys think? Is there some authenticity to this case? Do you think that we might actually have finally heard from the man that actually took photos? And to have, you know, a bit of an eyewitness account of these. I mean, everyone talks about the crash and the craft. No one ever really talks about the bodies. This is one of the first times that we've ever had proper information regarding bodies. And, you know, for him to talk about the smell, for him to talk about what they, you know, in a bit of description, what they look like. Very, very interesting. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to jump scare the hell out of that like button. And until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.